my name is Veronika. I'm a yoga for scoliosis teacher and welcome to Scoliosis, my YouTube channel about scoliosis and yoga for scoliosis. In this video you'll find a sequence which I prepared especially for lumbar curves. So this is what you can look forward to, and you'll need just 2 props if I'm not counting the yoga mat. We will need some padding for your curve. You can use either a little towel or you can use eye pillow if your curve is more severe and you need more padding. And you will need a chair, a stable one. I have a special yoga chair which is great, but any chair that is stable will work. So get your props and let's get started. Puppy pose in this way that we will tuck our toes under. We will sit on our heels. First we will lengthen our trunk through the crown of the head. We will lift the arms up and we'll use the arms to get some extra length and space in our torso, in our spine, working on derotating and on moving the apexes of our curve into the middle. Okay, so the side of the waist which is on your convex side, you want to move it back to the center. And then we will fold forward, we will lift the hips from our heels. And then what you want to achieve is that your hips are practically between your knees and your ankles. Okay, so maybe you need to walk the arms a little bit more forward to get this distance. And then we will slowly dive into the pose. Now there are a few things which you want to be mindful of. You want to have good support in the toes, and especially good support here in your palms. So you're spreading the fingers, you're actively pushing the palms into the ground, and avoid collapsing into this pose. Okay, we still want to keep the shoulders, the ribs and the hips in the same line, so keeping the spine neutral. And lengthen your neck also, so your head is in between your arms. You're externally rotating your upper arms while you're still pushing into the ground. And now imagine that somebody is grabbing your pelvis and they are really pulling hard toward the back, okay? So pull your pelvis toward the back. And also one more thing you want to be mindful of is not rounding the lower back, okay? So in case you feel that you're rounding, you want to lift your sitting bones up toward the ceiling, and this will help you to neutralize the back and to create more space and more length in your lower back. Okay, so we're pulling, and again, adjustment for a lumbar curve. What we want to do here is we want to pull the hip, which is on the concave side, toward the back. Okay, so this is what we're working on. And you are trying to push the convex side toward the ground and the ribs on the concave side toward the ceiling. And then you breathe into your concavity. So again, it looks quite easy, but it's quite a workout if you're doing all these actions. Last breath, and then I'm gonna let you rest for a moment, okay? Great, so let's release, and then let's just sit on the heels for a moment. And relax. Okay, great. Let's go on. Now we will go into downward dog, and I want you to take all the length we created and we worked with in the puppy pose, which was just this pose we did right now, into the downward dog. Okay? Now, what might help you is to first measure the distance, because what I see quite often is that the distance is quite small between the arms and legs, and then the people don't have enough space to really get this length in their spine. So what we're gonna do is we will just do a plank pose just for a second, don't worry, and then you will shift your weight tower the back. Now this might be quite hard for you because you're not used to this length, so feel free to bend the knees, and if it's really really hard for you, then you can always walk your feet a little bit closer, but just try to keep as much length as you can. Okay, now still we want to have active support from our arms, so the fingers are spread, we're pushing actively away from the ground, externally rotating the upper arms to connect our shoulders and to activate them in the right way. And then you pull your pelvis toward the ceiling, so we still have the knees bent because it's easier for us to create the length in the spine. And you can pull the hip on the concave side, again a little bit more toward the ceiling than the other hip. Okay, so we'll just stay in this variation of the downward dog for a moment. Great, create as much length as you can. Imagine somebody's holding you by the pelvis and they're pulling you up, and you're also actively pushing with the arms away from the ground. Okay, we'll take a rest for a moment. We will move our right leg in between the arms, and then we will lift our torso up. So now what I want you to do is align your knee and your right foot with your hips, and then keep an eye on your hips. We will put the arms on our hips and we'll help ourselves to derotate, to align both of the hips. And then, especially if you have a concavity on the right side, you want to move this hip down, okay, to create more length and more space here. Then of course you want to derotate, so you're pushing the ribs on the convex side forward and the ribs on the concave side backwards and expanding them. Great. And now we will keep the arms on the hips and we'll just gently lift the pubic bone up, sacrum down, because this will help us to create a neutral alignment of the spine. What happens often here is that people do something like this, that they're overarching the lumbar spine. So I want to keep this neutral, keeping the core connected. And then we gently move our pelvis forward, but we keep pulling the pubic bone up. And then you might feel quite an intense stretch here on the left side. We'll be just gently swaying back and forth. And keep an eye on this hip on the concave side. If you have a left lumbar curve, so that means that you have your concavity here on the right, then you're especially keeping an eye on your right hip now, that it's not escaping up. Okay, let's move into the stretch and let's hold it for a moment. And slowly release, and we'll switch legs. So we'll put the arms back on the ground, we'll move the leg away, and we will move the left leg forward, step it in between our palms, lift our torso up. And again, aligning our right knee under our right hip, left leg in line with our left hip. Putting the arms on the hips, realigning the hips, moving the left hip down and keeping an eye on it, especially if you have a right lumbar curve. So that means that you have your concavity on the left now. And we will derotate, we will push the ribs on the convex side forward, the ribs on the concave side backwards, breathing into the concavity, lifting the pubic bone up, sacrum down, and then we slowly move our weight forward, keeping this gentle pull of the pubic bone up, and you feel a stretch here on the right side. You start swaying a little bit back and forth, or maybe the stretch is so intense that you don't want to move that much in it, and you're keeping an eye on your left hip, that you're lengthening the left side, especially if you have a concavity on the left side. Okay, great. Now we will stay in the stretch for a moment. And slowly release, come back. And now I want you to repeat the side which felt more intense for you. Okay, so repeat the side. In case you didn't feel it more intense on one side, you can go back into child pose and stay there for a moment. And in case you did feel it more intense, you will repeat it. For me, it's always the right side. I have a left lumbar curve, so I'll just stay here for a moment. Okay, let's slowly release. And now we will go up into standing. Now we'll go into a warrior one variation. So we'll turn around in a way that we're facing the short side of our mat. And we will step a little bit forward. And you will keep your right leg forward and you'll step back with the left leg. Play with the distance a little bit until you feel comfortable. It shouldn't be like too easy, but it also shouldn't be too far away that you're like, oh my god, what I'm doing here, I'll fall. Okay, so choose something in between those two positions I just suggested or demonstrated, and keep your heel up, okay? We're not doing the full variation with the heel down and with the feet turned out. Just saying that if there are any fellow yogis who would say that warrior one is this way, but we're doing a variation on this, okay? So we're lifting the heel up and we're keeping the toes on the ground. And this variation is a little bit more comfortable for our Western anatomy and for our hips as well, okay? So this is why I'm choosing it. And now what you want to do is, your right foot is facing toward the front as well as the left one. And we will work on moving our left hip forward, our right hip a little bit to the back. The front knee is bent, obviously. And we want to pull the right hip a little bit down. And especially putting emphasis on this if you have a concavity on the right side, okay? Now, again, lifting the pubic bone up, sacrum down, derotating. You already know the drill. You can use your arms to help you with realigning the pelvis. Okay, great. And if you feel like you want to add a little more, you can reach your arms forward, then you reach them up, and then you use them to get some extra length in your torso. Lifting them up, lifting your whole spine up, lengthening through the crown of the head. Okay, let's release. Step with your left leg forward. Just take a short break. Yeah, I can feel that I'm quite out of shape after my birth and taking care of the baby. So it's good that I'm doing this workout with you. All right, so let's get back and we will step the right leg away and the left leg will stay in the front. Both feet are facing to the front, the right heel is lifted, and you have the left knee bent. You're finding the distance, which is quite good stability for you, but a challenge, and giving you a stretch here in the groin. We're working on realigning our pelvis. We're pulling the left hip down, especially in case you have a concavity on the left side. And you work on pulling the pubic bone up, sacrum down, derotating your rib cage. And then adding this little extra arms in front of you and then up over your head. You don't have to, you can feel free to keep them on your hips. But if you want to add some more elongation and you feel stable in the pose, then you can add the arms. Pulling yourself up. And observing the nice stretch in your front right thigh. Okay, let's slowly release. Let's step back forward. And now I want you to remember which side was more intense for you. And we're gonna do this once more on that side. In case you felt it the same, you can just stand in Tadasana. Okay, so either an active Tadasana if you felt it the same on both sides. And in case you felt it more intense on one side, then just briefly repeat it on this side. So realigning the pelvis, lifting the pubic bone up, lengthening the sacrum down, derotating, and you can add the arms if you want. And we're slowly coming back into standing. And if you're already feeling pretty exhausted, I have good news for you. Last pose, and then we're going into Shavasana. That means we're going to relax, okay? So now grab your chair. I'm gonna grab mine. Here it is. And now we will do Uttanasana, which is the forward fold with the chair. So I know often maybe you might hear that doing forward folds with scoliosis is not good. And I agree if you are doing it in a way which is not mindful and you are just kind of rounding there, exacerbating your curves. But if we do it this mindful way, you can even benefit from the forward folds and you can get some extra length and traction in the forward bend, okay? So we want to have the Tadasana feet, which means they will be on the distance of our hips, fingers spread a little bit, and your thighs are active. We will put our arms on our hips and they will fold forward, not from the back, rounding, but we will fold from the hips. So our torso is practically straight. Now if it's starting to pull here in the back sides, feel free to bend your knees a little bit, or if you feel that this is making you round your lower back, always bend the knees, which will help you, okay? Then we will put the arms on the seat of our chair. And maybe you feel that you're still rounding, you can't really get into it, then you can use the higher part of the chair, okay? So there's always this variation. And what we want to do is we want to bring our torso into a neutral alignment. So that means, again, shoulders, ribs, and hips in the same line. We want to have the spine nicely aligned, not rounding, okay? And also observe if you are not rounding in your convexities. So if you are feeling quite okay in the pose, you can move the arms on the seat of the chair and move it away in case you feel you don't have much space to lengthen, okay? So we're using the support of the chair and we're pulling back with our pelvis like we did in the puppy pose and also partly in downward dog. So it's always good to have your knees a little bit bent in case you're not sure if you're not rounding in your lower back. And what you want to do is kind of, you're lifting your sitting bones up, you're pushing your thighs back. You imagine somebody holding you by the pelvis and pulling you to the back while you are working actively with your arms and you are crawling forward and you're getting a nice lengthening action here and some traction in your spine. And now a tip for the lumbar curve is you pull the hip, which is on your concave side, a little bit more to the back. You can send some breath there to create more symmetry, more space in the concave side, activation of the muscles. And also here we can work on derotation. So we can move the ribs on the convex side forward toward the ground and the ribs on the concave side toward the ceiling and trying to spread them with the help of the breath. Also the neck is lengthened and between our arms. And now we'll slowly release. We will walk the feet toward the chair. Come back up. And now it's time to relax. So, if you want, you can try relaxation with the chair. So you can put your your legs into the chair, and you'll just basically lie on the back. You will put the legs into the chair, and your calves are resting on the chair. Now, it depends what type of chair you have. Maybe it's not that comfortable for you because you're not able to lay the legs like me in the chair. So either if you're comfortable, you can use it. And if it's not really working out with your chair, then you can move it away and you can just do traditional Shavasana. So kind of relaxing with your knees bent, and you can rest the knees toward each other. That's another variation. Or you can have like a bolster or a pillow or a rolled blanket, and you can put that under your knees. That's also a quite nice variation to have the lower back a little bit more rested on the ground. Okay, and if you were using a blanket in the beginning because your shoulders are quite tight and you tend to arch your cervical spine, then definitely use the blanket. I highly suggest it. And then you can just realign yourself in a way that is comfortable for you. Then you can move your arms a little bit away from your trunk, turning the palms toward the ceiling. Realigning your hips, your ribs, and your shoulders. Just checking that you're not lying like a banana. And then you can already relax because you did a good job. It was hard work today. So I'm sure you all did an amazing job, and thank you for taking time to practice with me. And now it's time to relax and restore just for a moment. So take a long inhale and then a long exhale, and feel free to exhale through your mouth. Let's do 2 more together, okay? Long inhale and a long exhale. And the last one, inhale and exhale. Now just let go of the breath. Let it flow naturally. Let go of your whole body. And your whole body is now completely relaxed. Just give yourself a moment to relax, melt away. Take a deep inhale. Slowly wake up your body, move your toes and fingers. And then whatever prop you are using, take the legs away from it, roll over to your concave side. Just stay here for a moment. And use your arms to slowly come back up into sitting. Still keep your eyes closed. And then just connect your palms in front of your chest. Rest your thumbs on your chest, on your sternum. With the next exhale, let the head bow toward the arms. And now just give yourself a big smile. And also thank yourself that you found time to practice, that you did something good for your body, for your mind, for your whole being. And then you can slowly start opening your eyes. I hope you enjoyed the practice. Thank you for practicing with me today. I'm really happy that you joined me on the mat today and that we got to practice together. If you liked it, make sure to like this video, and if you have any questions, feel free to drop them here in the comments. I always like to hear back from you guys and to help you out in case you have any questions. And if you really love this sequence and you want more, the full sequence is actually in my Scoliosis membership. This was just a short part I took out of it. So you can check it out, the link is under the video. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss any other videos I'm preparing for you guys. And have a great day, night, evening, wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!